Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 players that are bust-proof that you must draft in 2024 fantasy football. But before we can get on into 5 safe players that you guys got to draft in 2024 fantasy football, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into 5 bust-proof players that you must draft in 2024 fantasy football. We begin with the first bust-proof player, and that is going to be Saquon Barkley, running back of the Philadelphia Eagles, current underdog ADP, running back 6 at pick 20.4, aggregate ADP from Fantrax, Sleeper, ESPN, MFL, and NFFC have him at pick 15. So no longer do you have to draft Saquon Barkley in the first round, and Saquon Barkley is now in a significantly better situation. Last year, Saquon Barkley was essentially in one of the worst situations for a running back to succeed. The Giants' offense was absolutely atrocious. They had Daniel Jones. They had the Italian stallion Tommy DeVito. They had Tyrod Taylor under center, but none of those guys could get it to work. And ultimately, Saquon Barkley had a relatively meh season because of it. Now, he wasn't absolutely terrible to the point where if you drafted Saquon Barkley, you were absolutely disgusted with the pick, but he certainly did not live up to expectations. He was the running back 13 in PPR and the running back 9 in PPR points per game. And now he has been jolted into an offense that wants to run the ball onto one of the best offenses in the NFL. And the only drawback to Saquon Barkley that people can come up with is really just the fact that the tush push is going to vulture 1 million of his touchdowns. Now, despite the fact that if you use your brain a little bit and you realize that the other running backs on the Philadelphia Eagles prior to Saquon Barkley, like DeAndre Swift, Miles Sanders, those are guys that aren't built like brick shit houses like Saquon Barkley. They aren't built to be goal line backs. And I think with Jason Kelce being off of the team and with the center being the key component in the tush push, I think that is going to result in the Philadelphia Eagles trying to hand the ball off more on the goal line. Is the tush push going to be completely eliminated? Of course not. Because even with a different center and even with a different offensive system, they are still going to do it because it works with Jalen Hurts, but I do not believe they're going to be doing it as much. And I believe on an offense with the firepower of the Philadelphia Eagles, that Saquon Barkley's upside is the #1 running back in fantasy football. I get that Saquon Barkley is no longer this spring chicken, and he's getting a little bit older there from the early days in New York with Eli, right? But when push comes to shove, Saquon Barkley is still one of the most talented running backs in the NFL. He ranked 3rd in dominator rating last season, 15th in breakaway run rate, and 18th in yards created. He had 247 carries, 8th at running back, 962 rushing yards, 16th, 60 targets, 15th, 41 receptions, 20th, 280 receiving yards, 20th, and 10 total touchdowns, 11th. This man scored 10 total touchdowns in an offense that was completely inept, in an offense that was limp dick and in dire need of a Viagra or a Cialis. So I believe in Philadelphia in an offense that is going to be kicking down the doors of defenses, fucking FBI open up style. I believe that Saquon Barkley is going to have defenses in the figure 4. They are going to be in positive game scripts for Saquon Barkley to get the ball. In New York last year, the Giants would be getting slammed on a table from the back. How you like that late in games? So they weren't able to incorporate Saquon Barkley as much. But in Philadelphia, they're going to be up big on teams. They're going to be laying uppercuts to the defense, and Saquon Barkley is going to be in late in the games. I think Saquon Barkley has the upside again to be the running back one, and the fact that you can get him in the second round, to me, is crazy. That is a complete and utter steal, and I think Saquon Barkley has that top 3 number 1 upside, and I currently have him ranked as my running back number 4, and he's currently coming off the board as the running back 6 on pick 20 on Underdog Fantasy and pick 15 in aggregate ADP. At number 2, my second bust-proof player is going to be George Pickens, wide receiver of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Current Underdog Fantasy ADP wide receiver 28 at pick 40.4. Aggregate ADP pick 54. So last season, the Pittsburgh Steelers offense essentially got swirled by Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Kissin' Titties Mitchell Trubisky. This was an offense that was taken to go 10 to the Wabbits like Lenny in Of Mice of Men, and they got whacked big pussy style in The Sopranos, Jackie Jr. style, R.I.P. Jackie Jr., right? The Pittsburgh Steelers offense was dead on arrival with Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, or Mason Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, under center. George Pickens last year also had more competition compared to this season. Last year, George Pickens had to deal with the fact that Deontay Johnson sucks in targets like he's Kirby, and now Deontay Johnson is chilling in Carolina with short king Bryce Young as his starting quarterback. So George Pickens is now in a scenario where he is the clear, undisputed wide receiver 1, right? Entering into last season, you could have easily made the argument that Deontay Johnson will out-target him, that Deontay Johnson is the number 1, the head of the table, shout out Roman Reigns, in this offense, but now it's very clear that it is going to be George Pickens. Last year, Pickens ranked 5th in yards per target, 1st in yards per route run, 11th in yards per team pass attempt, 7th in dominator rating, 16th in unrealized air yards with a somewhat competent quarterback play in Russell Wilson. I think that George Pickens is going to be able to exceed expectations as the wide receiver 28 off the board. And George Pickens had the 78th target accuracy rating to further solidify my argument that George Pickens was getting his grave dug Undertaker style by the quarterback play. Now, I fully understand everyone and their mother likes to make fun of Russell Wilson, right? There's so many jokes that you can make at his expense. He's got the danger witch. Be careful, it's a little bit spicy. He was the guy doing fucking high knees all the way to England. I don't even remember if that story was true, but honestly, with how Russell Wilson acts, that might have been true, and I actually think it was. There's a lot of reasons to dislike Russell Wilson, and it is very true that there has been a fall off from Seattle, the 12th man, to his career in Denver, Broncos country. Let's ride, right? Like it's a tale of two stories, right? In Seattle, this guy is the savior of Seattle. Like, oh my gosh, we have a real fucking quarterback. The guy wins a Super Bowl, probably should have won another one if they knew to hand off the ball to beast mode to Marshawn Lynch, but hey, I digress, right? And then he goes to Denver, and it just doesn't go right. Last year, he looks better than he did in 2022, but again, nothing special. But I don't think George Pickens needs that special quarterback play, that old school Aaron Rodgers discount, double check that, Pat Mahomes, the Joe Shiesty, the CJ Stroud, the Josh Allen, the special quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't think George Pickens needs that. He is coming off the board as the wide receiver 28, where essentially he would have to be significantly worse than last season to bust, and everything is pointing up for George Pickens. He had 106 targets, 6.2 per game, ranking 28th, 63 receptions, 3.7 per game, ranking 36th, 1,140 receiving yards, 67.1 per game, number 16th, and 5 total touchdowns, 29th. The Steelers also plan on making third-year wide receiver George Pickens more versatile in his formation alignments this season. He also confirmed a couple of weeks ago in minicamp that he is going to be playing in the slot more in the new offensive system by Arthur Smith. Now, hearing the name Arthur Smith will instantly light a fire in your brain, right? Like in SpongeBob when he's trying to destroy all of everything he's got in his brain for fine dining, right? You hear the name Arthur Smith, you think, let me jump out the fucking window, let me jump off the roof, Kermit the Frog style, if anyone's seen that gif. But, and this is a big but, shout out to Kylie Jenner, I think that even with that buffoon Arthur Smith that has royally fucked Bijan Robinson in the ass, that has done disgusting things to Drizzy Drake London, I think that because the quarterback play here is going to be better than in Atlanta, George Pickens is just in too good of a scenario for Arthur Smith to ruin it all. If you look at the depth chart, they've got Van Jefferson, who's okay, like he's fast, he's going to have some cool plays, right? But it's Van Jefferson, right? They've got Roman Wilson, a rookie, Calvin Austin, white boy Scotty Miller. Let's be honest, like the second coming of Julian Edelman, Scotty Miller doesn't scare me. Pickens is going to be the number one target in this offense. And we've seen the skill. We just need the quarterback play to be a little bit better. And George Pickens is ready to hop on a rocket ship directly to the moon. So George Pickens, 2024, he's a bust-proof player due to where he's going. And his upside is a top 12 wide receiver. At number 3, we got Amari Cooper. We're keeping it in the AFC North. Amari Cooper, wide receiver of the Cleveland Browns. Underdog ADP wide receiver 29 at pick 41.4. Aggregate ADP pick 58. Now, last year, despite the fact that Amari Cooper was the wide receiver 20 in PPR and the wide receiver 18 in PPR points per game, despite the fact that he played in 15 games with 14 starts, had 128 targets, 8.5 per game, number 20 at wide receiver, 72 receptions, 4.8 per game, number 26 at wide receiver, 1,250 receiving yards, 83.3 per game, number 10 at wide receiver, 5 total touchdowns, 29th, right? He has a solid last season with the trials and tribulations at the quarterback position, the quarterback play going up and down, going all around like a roller coaster, like you're at fucking Six Flags with the bald man dancing, if you guys remember those old ads. But at the end of the day, even despite all of the woes, shout out to Drake, right? Amari Cooper was still solid. And I think a lot of the reason as to why the Mayday, DEFCON 5, wee woo, the alarms are sounding in people's heads around Amari Cooper is because of one man, the massage man, Deshaun Watson. And people worry that Deshaun Watson is going to tank Amari Cooper's value, that Amari Cooper is going to be sleeping with the fishes like Luca Brasi in The Godfather because of Deshaun Watson. Something that I want to make very clear is that while Watson didn't play a lot of games last year, Amari Cooper had 2 100-plus yard games with Watson under center last season. In 12 games with Watson in Cooper's career, this dates back to 2022 when he's coming off the suspension, and it's very important to understand that when he came off that suspension, he wasn't very good. He definitely looked a lot better last year compared to 2022, and if he is able to improve to look somewhat like his old self, if he's able to look a little bit better, then Watson could end up being a huge fantasy steal. We're not going to talk about him in today's video because I don't even really like drafting him. He's such a late round quarterback that in most 1 quarterback leagues, you won't even need to draft him, right? He's more of a 2 quarterback league kind of guy. But if Deshaun Watson is just halfway decent, Amari Cooper is the clear number 1 on this team. I understand that now they have Jerry Jeudy, who hasn't done diddly squat jack shit in his career. Like, it's very clear Amari Cooper is the guy. And in 12 games with Watson in Cooper's career, he had 51 catches for 870 yards and 4 touchdowns. In a 17-game pace, you figure that out because I'm a mathematician, 72 catches for 1,232 yards and 5 touchdowns, right? Last year, he had 72 receptions. His 17-game pace with Watson, 72 receptions. Slightly less yards, 1,232 would be the projection. 1,250 last year, which was top 10. And then he scored a grand total of 5 touchdowns, which would be the exact same as last season. So, pretty middling outcome, right? Cooper doesn't really get fully elevated by Watson. Watson doesn't turn back the clock and get better. Cooper's going to end up as a top 24 guy that you're getting off the board as the wide receiver 29. Best case scenario, Watson gets better. Cooper gets some touchdown luck because 9-inch Nicholas Chubb maybe isn't healthy. Maybe Njoku takes the backseat and Cooper is scoring more in the red zone. And you ended up with a complete and utter fucking steal. Bank heist, shout out Lester from GTA, right? That is what you are getting in Amari Cooper. He ranked 12th in yards per target, 3rd in yards per reception, 13th in yards per team pass attempt, 18th in dominator rating, and he did it all with a 5.9 target accuracy rating, 90th. So even though the ball was just doing the fucking Harlem Shake in the air when it was coming to Amari Cooper, he was still able to catch it. Amari Cooper is going to feast like a fat kid on some birthday cake in 2024. You better believe it. At ADP, he is a steal. He is incredibly safe, like wrapping that condom around your team, but he also has significant upside to have a huge year. At number 4, we got Travis Etienne, underdog ADP running back 10, pick 43.5. Aggregate ADP got him as the pick number 24. As you guys know, underdog fantasy is a very wide receiver heavy platform, so Travis Etienne is falling. He's yelling timber on underdog, but in your at-home league, he's very likely to be a late second / early third pick, depending on the other running backs going around him, like maybe Pacheco goes ahead of him or Henry, and maybe that pushes him down a little bit. So Travis Etienne was a guy that last year I didn't want anything to do with. I thought, by golly gee, they bring in Tank Bigsby, and I was a Tank Bigsby truther. I was saying, hoorah, Tank Bigsby season, banging the drum aggressively like a drummer boy in the Revolutionary War with fucking Mel Gibson in The Patriot, right? And that was wrong, right? Tank Bigsby sucked absolute dong like his name was Riley Reid, okay? Travis Etienne was really good, and Tank Bigsby was a nobody. Tank Bigsby, who I thought could be this red zone threat because Etienne in the past has struggled in the red zone, and then Etienne says he, flips me the double bird like he's Nate Diaz, and he scores 12 touchdowns. 6th at running back. He's the running back 3 in PPR and the running back 7 in PPR points per game. So I'm ready to acknowledge when I was wrong. I was wrong about Etienne. Now, I wasn't necessarily someone that was going out there and saying, just don't draft Travis Etienne ever, but I was definitely lower on him compared to consensus, and that ended up biting me in the behind, right? 17 games played with 17 starts. He ranked 4th in carries with 267, 15.7 per game. 1,008 rushing yards, 59.3 per game, number 11 at running back. 73 targets, 4.3 per game, number 7. 58 receptions, 3.4 per game, number 6. 476 receiving yards, 28 per game, number 5. And 12 total touchdowns, 6th. He ranked 4th in evaded tackles with 69. Very nice. I like my name of Borat. Sorry that the Borat impression is still weak because my throat just feels like it is just shot. I am no longer throat goat. Pause. My throat is all messed up, but it is what it is. We're still recording the videos. 9th in yards per reception and 15th in yards per route run. Travis Etienne was so fucking good last year that if you actually look back, 2 running backs in the NFL have had 1,400 plus scrimmage yards in each of the last 2 seasons. Those guys' names are Christian McCaffrey and Travis Etienne. Now, I'm not trying to fondle the metaphorical balls of Travis Etienne. I'm not trying to give him the Gawk 9000 special. But what I am trying to do is tell you that Travis Etienne is very safe. The Jacksonville Jaguars offense was a roller coaster ride of sorts last year, right? This was an offense that kind of really up and down, and then Lawrence gets hurt. And even when Lawrence is playing banged up, and even when this offense is free falling off the edge of the earth from the number one team in the AFC all the way out of the playoffs, Etienne was relatively consistent. And I think that this is an offense that is going to be successful again. I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs this year, and I think this is going to be the winner of the AFC South. I think that Travis Etienne is going to be very involved. I understand that the head coach there, Doug the Pug Peterson, has been talking up Hank Bigsby, and sure, maybe they lower Etienne's volume slightly, but I think even if he's getting slightly less carries, like, he's still going to get a bunch of targets, bunch of receptions, and he is still going to get the goal line work for the team. If the Jaguars are just a little bit more successful offensively this season and they're able to gel a little bit better, which was a big problem last year, guys dropping balls left and right, if they're able to gel a little bit better, the offensive line plays a little bit better, then there is big reason to believe that Etienne could rip off a third straight season with 1,400 plus scrimmage yards and rip off a 10 plus touchdown season and potentially end up as a top 5 back. He seems like a very safe bet to be a top 10, top 12 guy with the upside of smashing as that top 5, top 3 guy. So I like Travis Etienne a ton. The more and more I look into Travis Etienne, the more and more I talk myself into this guy. At number 5, we got the Goffinata, Jared Goff, quarterback of the Detroit Lions, underdog ADP, quarterback 16, pick 127.1. Now, we've talked about Underdog Fantasy a couple of times in today's video, and Underdog Fantasy is the sponsor of today's video. If you guys are brand new to Underdog Fantasy, you can claim your special pick plus up to $250 if you are a first-time depositor using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description. We are going to be doing Underdog Fantasy drafts live all summer long, like the Kid Rock song. Once my voice is a little bit better, we'll be live doing drafts with you guys. So if you guys want to practice for your fantasy football drafts, one of the best way to practice is by doing best ball drafts on Underdog Fantasy. They have their main tournament, $25 to enter, over $1 million to first place. If you think you're a big dog in fantasy football drafts like myself, make sure that you check out Underdog Fantasy. It is incredibly fun to draft on there. And they also have contest tournaments with as low of entry fees as $3, $5. They continue to add more and more as the offseason goes along. So make sure you guys check out Underdog Fantasy. Again, I will be doing drafts on there, so you might as well deposit before the stream, and then you're finicking, trying to get into the stream, and then boom, the draft fills. So make sure you guys check that out. Underdog Fantasy, promo code Notorious. 1-800-GAMBLER if you got a gambling problem. Shout out to Underdog Fantasy. I love that website. I draft on there all the time, even when I'm not streaming. So at number 5, Jared Goff, Underdog Fantasy ADP, quarterback 16, pick 127.1, aggregate ADP, pick 112. So if you are just waiting for the quarterback position and maybe some fucking assholes in front of you take quarterbacks to get their second one before you even get your first one, and you end up with Jared Goff, it's fine. Jared Goff is not only never going to fail you as the quarterback 16 off the board, he's also a guy that has weekly top 5 upside. This is a Detroit Lions offense that, while they give David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs a bunch of touches, this is going to be a very pass-heavy offense yet again. We saw it last season. 17 games played for Jared Goff, quarterback number 7 on the season, 16 in points per game. The reason why the points per game number is a little low is because there were some quote-unquote Jared Goff performances out of Goff, but ultimately he's kind of shook that narrative off of him, the kind of scrub narrative that was on Jared Goff for a long time in LA, that Sean McVay was basically mind-controlling him, fucking Ratatouille style, right? Showing him how to make everything in the kitchen, telling him exactly what to do. And Goff has looked really good in Detroit, and frankly, I think if Jameson Williams is able to excel, The fact that they have Laporta, who is one of the best tight ends in the NFL. They have one of the best receivers in Amari St. Brown. You have a great pass-catching running back in Jahmyr Gibbs. And if Jameson Williams is able to just be a little bit better, then Jared Goff has some really great weapons at his disposal. Goff ranked second in pass attempts last year at 35.6 per game. He ranked second in completions, 23.9 per game. He passed for over 4,500 passing yards, 4,571 passing yards, 268.9 per game. Number two, 30 touchdowns at a 5% rate. Passing touchdown rate is important at quarterback. If you're a quarterback like Jared Goff, sure, you're no world beater, you're pretty solid. You can reliably throw 5% passing touchdown rate. Now, if Goff last year dropped his nuts on the defenses, right, was hanging them on their eyelids, right, like one of those sleep masks, and he threw 6.9 or 6% passing touchdown rate, that is not going to happen again with Goff. But he threw 5%. Pretty normal. He could replicate that. Fourth at quarterback. 12 interceptions. Would I like Goff to throw a little bit less interceptions? Of course. But when you are throwing the ball as much as the Lions do, that's going to happen. Seventh at quarterback. Now, Goff's biggest reason as to why he will never really be like a league winner type is the rushing, right? 32 carries, 21 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 18th at quarterback, right? Goff's never going to go out there like Michael Vick and juke you out your shoes, right? He's never going to leave you stumbling and bumbling down like you got hit with a Muhammad Ali punch, right? He's never going to do that, right? He's never going to jump over you like Josh Allen did to that Vikings guy, right? He's not going to hit a spin move that sends 3 defenders in the opposite direction, right? Like it's Madden, okay? That's never going to happen with Jared Goff. So that's what's going to keep him from being like that league winner pinnacle quarterback. But that doesn't mean that he's not safe. And that doesn't mean that he can't be that top 5 guy a couple of times a season. And then the other games, he's just pretty reliable. So if you can get rid of the 2 stinkers he has every year, and this guy is just a top 12 quarterback guaranteed in points per game. So while there's a lot of bad narratives about Jared Goff, the guy ranked 8th in true passer rating, 6th in accuracy rating, 5th in true completion percentage, 6th in deep ball completion percentage, 8th in play action percentage. And then he ranked 3rd in drops. Balls were getting dropped all the time in Detroit last year. And Jared Goff was still able to be successful. So while Jared Goff won't necessarily be the reason why you are winning your fantasy football league, you're kissing the fucking Lombardi trophy, your fantasy football league's trophy. He's going to be a part of the team. He's going to be part of the reason why he got there. Sure, you won't have just won your league on the back of Jared Goff, unless, of course, he has like a huge performance in week 17 to win your championship, which is possible with Goff. But more than likely, the reason why you won your league is because you got Goff late, that safety net, and you added, where some people are drafting quarterbacks in the 3rd round, you're getting that special wide receiver, that special running back, or maybe you got that elite tight end that's able to take you over the top. So Jared Goff, while I don't think he's ever gonna, you're ever really getting all giddy, not Josh, of course, about drafting Jared Goff, I think at the end of the day, he's a lot safer than people think. Quarterback 16 off the board as a late round pick. I love me some Jared Goff. And shout out to Jared Goff's girlfriend. Throw a picture of her up on your screen. It'll burn the screen. That's how good looking she is. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Shout out to my fiance as well. I love you. Most beautiful girl in the world. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying today's video, please make sure that if you are new to the channel, that you hit that subscribe button like it owes you some money. Make sure you leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton whether you are new to the channel or not. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. I love you guys all from deep down in the bottom of my heart. My voice is getting a little bit better, so the videos are going to be even better because I won't have to cough every 12 seconds, but I do love you guys from deep down the bottom of my heart. I hope you guys have a great one, and I'll see you guys soon. Good boy!